Warning: the following podcast contains violent scenes that may be unsettling to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
The post-Civil War landscape of the American West offers escape and opportunities to many new immigrants who come to the country's shore. A few of them brave the journey to the camp town of Missouri Crossing, each looking for a new lease on life in the Dakota territories. Join the settlers of Missouri Crossing, including Gregory Smith, played by Joaquin, Sister Margaret Miller, played by Monica, Bjorn Hagman, played by Chris, and Craig as the keeper of arcane lore, as we explore the horrors that await us on Down Darker Trails. Okay, picking back up again with Bjorn. So what does your character value emotionally?
His son and a temporary sense of peace, that being in the outdoors brings him. He values not thinking about what he's, I don't want to say running from, but where he came from,
Where did he come from? I mean, obviously Norway, but...
he came from where basically he had this horrific case that happened to him. And outskirts of Oslo in the smaller town, he ended up spending 2-3 years investigating this child murder and found out it was this man that was in this, outskirts of that town. And all his energy was consumed to that. He wasn't spending time with his wife or his child. And then the moment that he solved it and he thought, okay, I can put myself at rest, I can heal, his wife comes down with tuberculosis and dies rather quickly. She didn't have a long life expectancy after that. So, he went from thinking, okay, everything's going to be fine. I now have time to focus on my wife and son. But then all of a sudden he gets hit with this. So that's where on a whim now, he took his son. He's like, we're just going. He sold everything. And he's like, we're just going to get out of here. We're going to start fresh and start new. And he almost looks at I don't want to use the cliche, he promised his wife he'd spend time with his son. Because he didn't really have a super, he married her when he was 16, but there wasn't a really emotional, strong bond between his wife and him. So but he's figuring it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
Not that he's a callous person or anything like that. And he misses his wife, obviously he's hurt by her death and pain and everything like that. So he's just driven now.
Is any of his values key into why he became
a lawman?
Lawman. I saw earlier that they had a constabulary force.
Yeah, it's because he believes in right and wrong. One thing about him, he liked to look at even before he became a lawman, that even he was probably from some small town in Norway outside of Oslo, but he believes in right and wrong. He doesn't believe in judging a book by its cover. Him spending the couple years as a kid, recovering from smallpox and reading about other cultures and reading about the world and reading about all that stuff. That was his escape, that was his escape then. And then the moment where his wife died after that major case, it's his escape now, that sense of wonder, that sense of wanting to go out and see it. So he's not going to be the type who's going to be, of course he's scared and nervous of indigenous, people if they attack him or whatever, but he's not closed-minded thinking. He has his wonder. He has his wonder again of the world.
What does Gregory value?
He definitely values being needed in his area. Part of the reason why he wanted to move out to the West is just so that he could give more to the community and for his family. So he likes that he is sort of the bread earner for his family and stuff. So he really wants to make sure that he likes to have people depend on him for stuff. He likes to be dependable.
So, you mentioned, he's traveling with family. Who is his family?
All right, so he has his wife. I'd say, he definitely has. He has 2 daughters and a son. His daughters came first, and his son was the youngest. And he's hoping that his son, takes up the family business, he did for his father. But his son, I'd say, now he's about 10-ish, maybe a little bit older. So he's definitely gotten some training, but he doesn't quite know for sure that he's going to take over fully yet.
So is the son apprenticing to you?
I'd say, yeah, mostly.
That's something that's important to Gregory, that he keeps this like family tradition.
Yeah,
going.
basically, he likes the idea that that he is helping make a tradition, like helping make a legacy. Like I said, he knows his father. He has no idea like who his grandparents are. Who like beyond that, he basically knows like I'm helping make something to leave for my family and stuff.
Those of you with families, your family have names, correct?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
I just have to. I know the son is named Mark. He got that from the Bible. He knows that much about the Bible. The daughters are. I'm horrible with names.
You can come back to it.
Yeah.
All right. What sort of values does Margaret have, like emotional or otherwise?
She places a lot of value in truth. Honesty, very important to her. Trust, even more so. And in being a transparent person, she doesn't believe in, lies of omission. She doesn't believe in, keeping secrets. She's a very transparent person and she tries to inspire that in others. She believes in peace, obviously, and unity. And that is what she tries to preach wherever she goes.
The Civil War, you mentioned, was a big seam in this country, and that she's working to try to sew back together, more or less.
Yeah.
How does she do that? What does that look like, her preaching?
Well, one of the big divides around this time are racial in nature, and she's definitely one of those people that sees all humans, no matter how flawed, as being children of God. So she can love a fellow clergyman the same way that she can love a criminal. And she sees a lot of people, having a lot of biases and prejudices against people of color, against the natives that were there. And she does not put up with that, let's say. If there's one thing that kind of gets her fuse lit, is just seeing that type of prejudice, man against their brother. So she tries to teach and preach tolerance, and she tries to get people to see and understand it, and in practice that we're all just children of God, regardless of, gender, age, or, color of our skin, or where you came from. We're all part of this great nation that is too divided, and we need to come together, because by being together is how we succeed.
Was there ever a time in Margaret's life where, like, not that she like radically failed, but someone like really took offense to that sort of thing?
I think given the time period, a lot of people take offense to being told that a white man is equal to, an Indian or a Negro, as they would call them. And I imagine she's probably seen her share of physical abuse over such things. Like, she may be a nun, but I don't think anybody would have a problem backhanding her if she went to a man, who had his own settlement, and she said, well, you're no bigger in God's eyes, you're no better in God's eyes than the person that's, tilling your fields. I'm pretty sure she's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way that way.
What does Margaret do to unwind? I know there's a lot of like strict rules in being an ordained sister in the Catholic Church, but what does she do for fun? How does she break loose and like regain some like control over her life?
For her, walking is a really big thing. Walking while praying is kind of like a moving meditation, I would say. She finds a lot of beauty and wonder in the natural world. So taking walks outside, usually someone has to be with her, of course, but she just finds, a beautiful sunrise or a sunset, just one of the most amazing kind of splendors and show offs of God's creation. So things in nature, walking, of course, praying and reading the Bible. I could see her maybe, if she had the time to do it, to sit down and just kind of do a little cross-stitching type thing. But for the most part, she's a more active lady, so I would see her definitely doing a lot of walking.
So she's taking like a vow of poverty, but is there any secret indulgence that she has?
Ooh, a secret indulgence. I would say sleeping. Sloth would, she's an
Right.
active lady and all, but Sundays are very sacred. And if she could sleep all day Sunday, I think she would.
That's fantastic. What does Gregory do to unwind? Is there stuff that he does with his family or by himself?
I definitely think that for a hobby, I definitely think that he would actually sort of like he can read somewhat. Like he does enjoy like having just being like reading like being read to by like his wife. Some just being stuff could be like some of those like you know from the Bible. It could have been like from some of the stuff in the early newspapers. Some of those I don't know if they would, but the thing yeah, those penny
dreadfuls,
yeah,
and dime store or dime novels.
Yes, something. Yeah, so he finds that it's nice to sort of lean back in a chair, and just have something to be told to him like that.
Nice. What's his favorite story?
He might. I don't know. He might like occasionally. He might like have a bit of the some of the old Edgar Allan Poe stories, some of the stalker stuff, something that just like have a bit of a chill to him. Yeah, maybe something like that. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. I'm trying to think of who would be writing back then. Like he would like some of his detective stories, like the Murder at the Rue Morgue.
Yeah. Okay, so he's like a Poe fan.
Yeah.
Excellent. I like that. So what does Bjorn do to blow off some steam?
I liked how you asked Monica, like, what does he do to blow off steam, and then what was the second question you asked her about, like,
what sort of indulgence does
what indulgence? So like what he does to blow off steam, he likes to read nonfiction. He likes to read nonfiction a lot. So like he has a score of 50 in history, and I would assume he probably has read up on a lot, you know what I mean, on world history, and so he has 50 in law, stuff like that, but that could be from his career or whatever.
Maybe he has like a stack of history books written in Norwegian
or even English, since you know what I mean, like and he's trying to learn English. That he'll trade books probably. That was probably one only good thing about Chicago, was the fact that he had all these books he already read, you know, and he could just trade them with someone for other books, and he doesn't hold on to them. He just kind of like burns through them, kind of thing, you know.
So that's actually reading something that all three of our player characters have in common.
Yeah. And then my indulgence, when he gets like really stressed out, he'll partake in horrors if he can find one, but it's not like a regular thing though. It's like something to him that like he'll wait till he absolutely has to. It's not like he goes and does it regularly.
So is it to like just purely satisfy like a physical need, or is it like emotional, or does like
it's kind of both. He has like a relationship with them, like he talks to them. I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this. He does because he wants to know them as people, because it's part of learning, you know. But then, like, when it comes to where, okay, he absolutely has to have sex, you know, it's gone a while without it, he'll pay them to have sex, you know what I mean? And then he'll move on. But he spends more time with them, talking to them and getting to know them. It's almost like the lawman in him a little bit too, you know, like you're going to find out more about like what's going on in the area, or what's going to go on. Like, I don't know if there's going to be prostitutes that are going to be on this, you know, run that goes up to North Dakota or whatever too. But he's just kind of keeping your ear to the ground, you know? So
does your son know?
No, and he hides it from his son. And it's almost like this thing that he does where his son's asleep and he'll go there and he feels guilty about it when he does it. Not because of any religious, like, whatever, but because he did, like I said, he wasn't really emotionally connected to his wife, but he loved his wife, you know? So to him, and that was his only lover since he was 16, you know, and he's 28 right now. For the last 12 years, he pretty much only had sex with one woman. And now, you know, he finds himself having to pretend, especially like, it's the stress. He's anxious, you know, and all the built up, pent up frustration that he's felt because of everything going on. But yeah.
I'm jumping around a little bit because my next question was virtue and vice, but we already covered that. But what sort of like vice does Gregory have? Just so we can cover that.
He will like be the first to like jump to a fight, because he definitely like he enjoys a good scrap, and at times he like will sort of antagonize people, especially like never during work, but like, whenever he's like off work and he's like, you know, going out, you know, getting like drinking beer or whatever, he will like usually be the one to like initiate a fight.
He's an instigator.
Yes.
So like he's a big, strong guy. He just likes to push people over the edge. So they take this first swing, and he could just finish them.
Yes.
Excellent. I like that a lot. So he's sort of like, why does he do it? Does it make him like feel powerful and in control, or? or does
Yeah,
he just like to see
I
other
think it's
people?
sort of like back. He likes to. Part of him he really likes to be at the center of attention at times. So with his family, he knows he is there, like he was out drinking and stuff. He's like, okay, yeah, well, let's see how we can get some stuff started. Let's see how I can get to the middle of the mess.
Does this instigating desire come up with like his family at all?
I'd say sometimes. I think. Well, it doesn't come up as much because normally, like he just knows he already is like he's the man of the household. He's already doing all that, so mostly he's satisfied, just making sure they depend on me for stuff. But I think maybe like at times he would sort of like just always like sometimes like if things go too, he might say hey read to me or something. He'll like have some way like have them attend to him at some point. Just
Okay, so like yeah, he is the focus. This is his household. He's the man of the house, and not that he needs servants, but he appreciates that his family not dote on him, but he works hard for them, so they should work hard for him.
yes.
Yeah, Monica, we talked earlier that Sister Margaret has some sort of like lazy streak in her. Does she get caught like napping up? Does she hide it? Does she like go for a walk and take a nap in the woods?
She would definitely be the type to go take a walk and come back with her hair all messed up because she took a nap in the woods.
Yeah, I really like that whole aspect because the religious life is as much toil historically as a lot of like the typical laboring life, and like I just like that fact of her just trying to like get around it. You know
If
what I
she
mean?
got caught, she wouldn't lie about it, but her walks are definitely, they start out well meaning with just getting a bit of exercise and enjoying the majesty of God's creation, but then they devolve into napping.
Does she confess the sin of sloth, or is it something she keeps to herself?
Oh no, I think she would definitely confess it.
So, do you think that maybe this assigned pilgrimage was maybe given to her to sort of like mend her ways?
Yeah, it would definitely seem like a fit Catholic punishment
Like a
for
penance, yeah.
like a penance for someone who
Yeah.
definitely does less than her share.
Yeah, like the fact that it just so happens to like line up with your desire to spread the word and heal wounds, it's like an interesting dichotomy because she could like maybe take joy in her penance.
Yeah.
We went over physical descriptions, but how does Sister Margaret typically dress, and like will that change after being on the road and in like frontierland?
She is definitely very conservatively dressed, regardless of the weather. She's the type that she will suffer and sweat just to keep her long sleeves and her skirts down to cover her ankles type. She's extremely, extremely modest with her appearance. She doesn't even like to show her hair if she can help it. Wearing pants is an absolute no. Wearing anything above the ankle is an absolute no for her. And she keeps it kind of, I would think of like modern day Amish, just very plain clothing, nothing flashy. And if she could stick to black or white, she would.
And I think that, well, that's obviously not a problem to get over there, but I'm interested to see if like any of this might change after experiences on the trail or not.
We'll see.
I guess so. We talked about Gregory being a big strapping man. How does he typically dress? Does this differ like from at home versus on the job?
I definitely think for him, like he doesn't really, since like he grew up, helping his father out in the forge and stuff. He definitely doesn't really see too much of a delineation between home and work. So he actually has to like, sort of be like reminded that he can wear clothes other than his aprons, his work clothes. So he's just so used to being near the forge, being in the heat that he wears. And actually on the trail, he actually like, oh yeah, I don't have, since we're traveling, I don't really have to wear, the big, the leather aprons, and I'll actually wear other clothes for once.
Yeah. But like, say he finished work and went to like pick up a drink at a saloon or something, he might just still be wearing a leather apron. Just
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. He feels comfortable in it. It's sort of like a second skin for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
How about Bjorn? How does he typically dress?
He usually wears like the blue jeans. I'm sure that he's gonna have to wear, heading up on the normal cattle ranch type clothing, frontier clothing. He doesn't have anything like highfalutin dress up clothes, just something. He probably has a good set that he wears, when he's not working or whatever. But yeah, nothing.
Yeah, he has his two sets of dungarees for the entire 2 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just banking on being able to pick something up when he gets to. I'm not saying that Missouri Crossing is going to be civilization, but
yeah. Hoping that there's some kind of trader there. You know what I mean? He'll make it work. He'll figure
there's
it
somebody
out.
at least with some cloth somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what sort of like objects or location hold meaning for Bjorn? Is there any like sort of special keepsakes that he has?
He has a picture of his wife that he has in a locket. I would say he probably has like his favorite book, that like his favorite nonfiction book. I don't know of any good nonfiction books ever written at the time, but
You'll figure that out before next time we play, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like a beat up copy of it, that he always goes back to and he's read probably a shit ton of times.
And what about Gregory?
I definitely think that like he's got a lot of the tools and stuff at his. He very much values his forge, his workspace very much, because to him like pretty much that's been his whole life for most of his life. So that's like pretty much he has to make sure he takes care of that stuff. That's his domain, and he has to make sure it's taken care of.
Does he have anything like non-work related that he treasures?
I think maybe he might have like got like a couple, maybe like got like some Confederates, like maybe got a little like a old patch of like some from the war, like maybe afterwards he found like an old revolver or something in like in the field somewhere. He's like picks up like, I'll take that. This is a souvenir.
That's a important distinction. Did he fight for the North or the South?
I definitely think for the North, just because he happened to like I would say like he definitely lived like in the northern part of the country. And so he might have he didn't really have too much of an opinion about it. He just we're going to war. They're trying to break up the country. Let's kick him in the teeth. He didn't really have too much skin in the game, I guess.
Mm-hmm. It seems like his home base was Chicago before he decides to get out. So yeah, like North would probably be a default there.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Confederate revolver of some sort.
Maybe like something Confederate. So we really found like he found like after
patch or unipatch or insignia or
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. What does Margaret keep that is a treasured possession of hers?
I would say she keeps 3 things. Number 1 being her family Bible that's been presumably passed down, by her grandmother. Picture, of course, of her mother and father, which I assume she would keep somewhere in the Bible, maybe as a bookmark. And lastly, I would say a rosary made where the beads are actually made of glass encasing pressed roses. It was something that I saw once, and I just thought it was such a cool idea, where the actual rosary had the actual petals of the roses pressed and ground in such a way that they actually became beads. And I would think that it would have some monetary value, but for her, it's mostly a spiritual thing. So those 3 items, the rosary, the family Bible, and the picture of her parents.
Does she this is a pretty typical thing for Catholics, keep a family genealogy inside the front cover of the Bible? Is that something she might keep up with?
She probably would, especially since the Bible's been handed down. So I would imagine that given its age, it would have the names of the previous owners. And, you would put it in your best penmanship as it was passed down to the next person.
Yeah. The rosary, is that something she keeps hidden? Is she afraid that other people of her order might think of it too ostentatious because of the rose petals? Or does
Both. Because she's such a humble person, she worries that people think that she has it kind of to be snooty, because it definitely has its value. And also she's worried that because of its value and the company that she could be preaching to may not be the best, they could steal it. So this is definitely something that I think she would keep within her clothes and only use when she's alone. Like, I don't even think that Father Frank would know she has it.
Excellent. So yeah, what's Margaret's favorite food?
Kidney pie.
Kidney pie. Excellent. And Gregory, is it something hearty or something sweet?
I think maybe like he one of the things he indulged himself was like he got like in Chicago they got like some candy or something that he would like sometimes snack on.
So maybe like when he has a few extra things, like maybe like for major holidays, he goes and gets candy for his children to celebrate, and maybe he gets an extra for himself.
Exactly, yeah.
So he just likes the sweets. What about Bjorn? Is it
Eggs and bacon.
Eggs and bacon.
Yeah.
Was this a new dish that he discovered in America that he be prominent, or did it start back home?
No, it was definitely something in America and Chicago that when he started getting his appetite and started, you know what I mean, feeling like hungry, like he could eat regularly again, like eggs and bacon. And I would even probably say it was because like he would go like have breakfast with the whores in the morning, you know what I mean? He'd wake up before work and go have breakfast where the location was and talk to them as they're about to go to bed or whatever, and then go off to, do work.
Yeah, I like that. So how does Bjorn feel about like the indigenous peoples or other immigrant peoples that are in America? Does he have any opinions on that?
He's generally has a curiosity about all of them, you know what I mean? Like that just from his always having read about different cultures and civilizations in the world and stuff like that. So having like a, lack of a better term, melting pot like America is at the time is also one of the reasons that drove him to go there. He could have gone anywhere in Europe and probably resettled, but he's getting to go to this like new, mysterious, unexplored land that taps into, like I said, that feeling of when he was able to go out after he recovered from smallpox and explore again. He's feeling that, and he's with his son this time too to experience it.
Yeah. Plus, being an immigrant himself, he's probably very open to that.
I mean, he has no judgment, and to him, to be honest, with what he saw in Chicago, which I don't know too much about Chicago history at this time, but I would assume it would being ran by people who've been embedded there for a while. It's like he just sees like, okay, you may have Americans who don't like immigrants or whatever, but he's like, you all first of all just fought a civil war where you know what I mean, you killed your own brothers and everything over something as to him as silly and barbaric as slavery, which I believe Europe for a long beforehand, quite a while beforehand, had made it illegal, you know what I mean? And to him, he's just thinking, like, well, I'm tending to like go against your opinions if you don't like, people of color or indigenous people or immigrants. He's actually feels himself more inclined to it, and even in a weird way, like working with the cattle people, like that when he's working up there, going up to North Dakota, he's working with people who haven't had any handouts in life, you know what I mean? So he likes enjoying being around like the salt of the earth people, like the whores and these other people,
Right.
So.
I've been doing like a lot of reading on like Old West cowboys, and like a vast majority of them were just a melting pot of like races and cultures, and like people would prove equally up to the task or worthless regardless of where they came from.
Yeah, and also I would even maybe tie to like the case that he solved beforehand. It was probably some like higher upper crust person that was the murderer, you know what I mean? So like he probably has like this weird distrust anyways of like the upper crust snobby types,
That makes sense. Quinn, we talked a little bit about how Gregory doesn't really know who his ancestry is, but he knows his father and such. But
so I definitely think that for Gregory, he definitely sees like immigrants. He just says he thinks that a man has to be able to if he can provide for his family, that's all they want. And so he probably grew up he has no idea who his heritage comes from. His father has no idea, so he's just like it doesn't really affect me that much. So he definitely sees like immigrants and stuff. So like as long as it's willing to work for your family and stuff, it's all pretty much all the same to him. For like with like like for the minorities and for like minorities and stuff, he's like same thing. If you're black, you still got family, you still got to work for them. Put food on the table for them.
And likewise with Margaret, we kind of talked earlier how she's like her main goal is like heal wounds, be the grand unifier. sort of persona that extends, I'm going to assume, to indigenous and other immigrant cultures.
Yes, especially so. Being technically the fact that America is built upon immigration, she thinks it's very hypocritical of people to think that the immigration of whites, and even then only certain whites, is allowable, but then the people who are actually there to start with are the ones that need to go. So she definitely is pro unity in every sense, from the people that are being used as slaves to the people that are being driven out of their land. They're all to her the same in her eyes.
But what if they're of a different religion? Aren't you going over there to basically preach the word?
They're still children of God, but they're children of God who are wrong and need correcting.
So you're basically trying to give direction so they're not misguided anymore.
Yes, we don't want them going to hell.
So yeah, it's interesting because it's a different mindset than like a lot of people might have today on a similar topic. But I think it's going to be an interesting one to explore. All right, so we're getting down there with some of these questions. What is the worst thing that Margaret has ever done, and what is the worst thing that Margaret can imagine another person doing?
Geez, I think the worst thing that she would have done is probably maybe steal as a child. I can see her being the type to maybe steal a sweet that she was told she couldn't have, or eat more than her share just because she was hungry, which is why she works so hard now to maintain herself, within godly guidelines, so to speak, about, poverty and being humble. The worst thing that she could think of someone doing would definitely be molestation of a child.
And on that cheerful note, same question to Gregory.
I think the worst thing he's ever done, at least in his eyes, was, I would say, like, it was back during like the Civil War, and at one point after a battle, he recalls distinctly that he heard, they were like dragging wounded around and everywhere. He saw like one guy, he was lying out, he had like a leg blown out. He was like crying out for help and stuff. So Gregory clearly saw him, and everyone was just too busy running around ignoring him. And Gregory, he saw him and he didn't help him just because he was like too freaked out by all the stuff going on. He just saw him, he didn't help him, and so
you let him suffer.
Yes, and so Gregory definitely sees that as like the worst thing he's ever done.
That's a good one. He was probably lying there for quite some time, and I'm not sure if Gregory even had the means or didn't have the courage to put him out of his misery. But he's probably got like a gut shot or something, or
yes. So yeah, that's definitely that stuck with him a lot. And so the worst thing he thinks someone can do to another is, I'm not too sure, because he grew up in Chicago, so he definitely saw crime and stuff going on, and he saw the Civil War, so he saw a lot of stuff going on. So I think maybe for him, like, the worst thing for him would be like if someone was like just totally like crippled, and so they had to rely on others to survive, like. Say someone like lost both their hands, or they were blinded or something. It's like to be so vulnerable that you have to depend on others to him. So I mean, that's the worst thing you could do to another person
is to
render them
permanently
helpless,
cripple them. Yeah,
yes.
Render them helpless and permanently cripple. So your experience with that wounded soldier, is that maybe what caused your character's phobia or mania?
Yeah, I would definitely think that. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to develop that some more because I like where that's going. And finally, Bjorn.
The worst thing that he did was shooting that man who killed those kids and killing him, but making it look like that he was defending himself.
Oh, so he sort of like solved the crime. Did he go to confront him and then...
He went to confront him, and I think the guy probably said something to him that just like set him off, and before he knew it, he pulled his gun out and just fucking shot him between the eyes kind of thing, and just was like, oh shit. It was kind of like clamoring, and I think that like part of him wonders if him doing that like is the reason why his wife got tuberculosis kind of thing, because like he did a really bad job setting it up to make it look like that he had to defend himself, and maybe some of the other constables were like, oh yeah, You know what I mean? You had to defend
Yeah,
yourself or whatever.
it's your word versus others.
Yeah,
so-
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're a lawman, so
Yeah, and they kind of maybe some knew, but they didn't give a shit because they knew the guy was a piece of shit. You know what happened to, but he like was like fuck because in his mind, well, not that this guy was innocent, but in his mind, taking an innocent life unjustly is the worst thing you can do. You know, he doesn't believe in like massacring during war. He doesn't believe in like he believes that you got to kill someone sometimes. You know what I mean? And that has to happen, but like he doesn't believe in just unjust murder at all. So
the worst thing that you can imagine, like, did that man that you killed, did he do one of those worst things?
oh yeah, he told you he did it over and over again. I mean, like this guy was just a monster, and I think the guy got away with it for so long because he was kind of wealthy and had political pull or whatever. And he just said one little thing to like kind of confirm he did it, but kind of like rub it in that like nothing was probably gonna happen to him, and just shot the motherfucker. There's like, oh crap, and was in panic mode. So
All right. So where does Bjorn see himself in 5 years? So like, what are his motivations for getting there?
being at peace. He sees himself 5 years like just being at peace. If it's having a small farm, if it's having like a small business where he can get out and like sit on a porch and drink a coffee and look out at the prairie and not have anything, any enclosure, you know what I mean? Not anything pressing upon him, and feeling like truly at peace with his son, entering manhood or probably doing his own thing at this time. That's what he would like. He doesn't foresee himself ever getting married again or ever, like that. He just wants to spend the rest of his life on personal growth and the growth of his son.
So Joaquin, where does Gregory see himself in 5 years? How is he going to get there?
I definitely think that he sees himself in 5 years, like being like the eminent craftsman of the little camp place with his son, bringing him right there to take his place when he gets too old, when he starts getting too old to do the work.
Yeah, just like a well-deserved retirement, having set his family up for success. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Exactly, yeah.
And Margaret, Sister Margaret, where would she like to be in 5 years, and how is she going to work at it?
I think in 5 years, she would ideally like to be back home at the church that she knows and loves, so she's close to family. In 5 years, she would be at the end of her 20s, so her parents would be kind of on their way out. So she would be looking at essentially either going back home to assist her family with their state of affairs, or if they're well off, still with their health, then she would just remain with her church and hopefully continue to travel.
So for her, Missouri Crossing isn't necessarily a terminus,
Correct. It's just a place she's passing through.
just like every other place in her life.
Yep.
One last thing we're going to do before we wrap this up is I would like everyone to basically take a look at their character sheets and let me know, like, how did you end up spending your skill points, and how does this reflect on the character you developed? And maybe we can like hash out some sort of justification for any of these more esoteric skills that you might have picked.
I'll go ahead and go first then.
Alrighty.
So he has 20% credit rating. It's just the money that he has from when he sold everything and ran. He has 50% in drive, wagon, or coach. I would think he probably learned that through, helping with the cattle thing. I'm sure sometimes he has to get on there, you know what I mean? Drive it around, do things like that. 50% fighting and brawling, just from being a rambunctious kid, being a law man, a lot of stuff like that. He doesn't want to shoot people unless he absolutely has to. So 55% in firearms, handguns, 50% in firearms, rifle, shotgun, obvious reasons for that. 50% history. He loves to read, and all this is just one big journey to him. So he loves to read. I would say he's even, the Civil War just happened, but like even the Revolutionary War, he's real educated on that, on American history too. 60% on intimidate, I would say, because of his poxmarked look and the fact that he's a lawman and he knows how to intimidate people. 50% on law, I would say, like American law, he's probably read up a lot on that. Just, he has his natural curiosity. He just has this thirst, 50% on listen. He's just active, learning how to be aware of your surroundings. 60% on persuade. He's not like a Clint Eastwood walk around looking silent. He can be a personable person. He likes to talk to people, and get to know them.
That's the distinction in the system is like persuade actually involves making an argument that's going to have long-term effects, whereas like fast talk is making up some BS that's going to work up and out, but not hold up too long as scrutiny or like a charm, which is relying on your.
Well, maybe he likes to debate, thus he likes history. You know what I mean? And that he likes to be able to like, well, technically, blah 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 kind of thing. 50% psychology. Part of being a cop, part of being able to read people.
Psychology is more like it's a big lie detector in this system. So
awesome. 50% of ride. He's really good at riding. Always has been growing up. 50% spot hidden. He's good at seeing things that, you know what I mean? Detective stuff. 30% stealth. He's not the most stealthy of people, but he can move around quietly when he needs to. He's not used to this kind of environment, the American West, you know what I mean? So he probably feels a little clumsy sometimes going about there. 50% track, though. He is good at tracking, and it's a lot easier in the American West to probably track because of like the tall grass. You know what I mean? And a lot of it's still frontierish.
Yeah, or like if it's like a rainy season, like he might know, like since there's not a lot of people out there, like the tracks are probably going to be what you're looking for, or buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. And 30% in English. So that's my skills there.
So for own language, you have, was it Norwegian?
Yeah, Norwegian.
Okay. Excellent. Who'd like to go next?
I can go. So Margaret's credit rating, as we previously mentioned, is 25%. She has got a 45 in first aid, which of course came from her war experience. A 15 in history, mainly through reading the Bible and the historical accounts in the Bible, but not much else. Her other language is, of course, Latin. She's got 11 there. Library, she's got 48. Listen is 50. Of course, she's a great ear, but loves to talk too. Her medicine is at 61. Again, that's through the war experience. I gave her a 40 in natural world because she does spend a lot of her time on her outside walks. She has a 45 in occult because where there is God, the devil surely is afoot. A 40 in persuade because she loves, to change people's minds and bring them to the light of God. And that goes along with the 40 in psychology to be able to spot a good liar. I did give her a 55 in spot hidden simply because I figure she's around a lot of kids, or at least back home she was, and having to chase after kids who are sometimes a little bit slick. She's used to kind of the more visual art of investigation. 40 in stealth because she's very small and can easily weasel her way to places to eavesdrop as needed. 40 in survival is what I added to that.
All right. So yeah, I noticed you put quite a bit in natural history. Our prospective farmer might be needing to hit you up to actually figure out how crop rotation works.
Right.
I don't think Chris put anything in there. All right. What do you have, Joaquin?
All right, so I have 30% in accounting. So he just, he has to run business. Essentially, 60 in art and blacksmithing, art and craft, or metal, something like that. It's got a 40 in credit rating. It's got a 20 in dodge, just to make sure he has to fight, so he likes to make sure doesn't get hit all the time. A 20 in drive wagon, probably because just on the trip there, he has to actually learn how to drive a wagon. He's got 40% in brawl. Like again, he likes to get into fights. He's got 40, partly from just being trained by the army, and partly because he had to learn because he was planning to go out west. He has to make sure he can defend his family. He's got 50 in first aid. He knows how to he knows how to do a lot of the small level stuff, but beyond that, that's when he starts to get way out of his depth. I gave him 20 in mechanical repair just so he can, actually, help, repair stuff for a blacksmithing job. 30% in spot hidden. And then finally, he has 30% in survival, just because, he knows he was planning to go west and stuff. He wants to make sure that he has some knowledge of how to not die going out in the woods.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting because you took what did you put in your crafts?
60.
60, yeah, because you have a very high blacksmithing skill, but your accounting's not bad either, because you're your own business owner, and I think it's interesting that you are able to use some of those other skills to kind of supplement that.
Yep.
And yeah, no, I just like when it kind of makes sense.
Synergizes.
Yeah, there's a sort of verisimilitude about playing a business owner and representing it on a character sheet that I like. All right. Thank you everyone for the character creation session. Does anyone have any closing comments or remarks or questions?
One thing I want to add about my character before we end, I could very well see it being where he goes there with the intention of being a farmer, but he ends up finding himself pulled back into law enforcement. You know what I mean?
You get the wired thing
going
on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kind of playing off that. So yeah.
I guess one last thing to think about is do any of you guys know each other before heading out there?
I would say that Bjorn would know Sister Margaret, because he probably has his son talking to her a lot to get proper, Catholic lessons that he thinks to be a good citizen you must know. But he also probably has opened up to her. Probably took a little bit of opening up to her, but he probably has looked at her. I mean, they didn't have counselors back then, but talking's good for the soul. And he probably finds that he talks to her sometimes too when he feels a little bit too guilty about being around the whores, or stuff like that. So you'll talk to her to get her a different perspective too, so. And then I think he knows Gregory, because he is probably thinking that he's going to have to, one of two things. He thinks he's going to have to employ Gregory to help with things that he needs on the farm, or two, he's even kind of maybe thinking about talking to Gregory about making his son, my son, apprentice to him, maybe, to learn some kind of job skill, or maybe have work, or to kind of put him to good use, once he gets there. So, because, doesn't want him running around, not knowing people. Maybe he'll meet other kids, Gregory's age, or Gregory's kids' age, and stuff like that. And so I can see that.
Yeah, I don't want to try to force everyone together at the beginning. I mean, you guys are going to be sort of a team, because just you'll spend time with each other on for several months before you even get there. So you all turn up at the same time. So yeah, you could just develop friendships or rivalries on the trail, and it's okay if there's no more. All right, thank you everyone for joining us for this prelude session of Missouri Crossing, and just remember, drink Glenlivet and listen to the National.
Hunters Hunted 2 Corruption follows 4 hunters who have been plagued by the Supernatural Society, and is a great place to start if you're looking for more games to listen to by Twin Cities by Night and you enjoyed Missouri Crossing.